What is up, my fellow gamers? In today's video, we got our best guide for the hero Asta, the Clover Academy Season 1 hero to be specific. Look us up for more amazing gaming content. All right, so we got our guy up to level 80 LR rarity. So let's go over the skills first, because this is really important. As far as the skill page goes, obviously you want to get his specific skill page. Now, if you don't have that, there's a few different options that you can go with. For me personally, I just went with this one, Breath of Darkness. We're just getting extra 10% to all of our attack. That's pretty much it. Nothing fancy. You can go over some of these other ones and try and mix and match them. Now, you're not going to, of course, get that upgraded skill because it has to match that specific character, but you will get the passive skill as long as it matches the mage type. So we would only get something like this: attacks after granting an 8.6% increased damage dealt buff upon using skill 2. So you could go through these different ones and kind of look out, and some of them are decent. The one that I kind of do like that I was trying out was the crit rate increase. So 2.5% at the end of an ally's turn stacks up to 5 times. This one was not too bad as well, but for sure, just getting the guaranteed extra attack, you can never go wrong with that. First one we got is skill 1. It does not cost any SP or energy, whatever you want to call it, and it does not have a cooldown either. So we can activate this as many times as we want. Really important, if an active buff is present, we got a chance to deal an extra attack. That the extra attack only does 70% of attack, and this doesn't change. So even if we go ahead and increase the overall skill level of this, it does not change that extra attack damage. It's always going to be 70%. If a buff stacks, it'll pretty much just tell you straight up, and if it doesn't stack, then it won't say this. If you see something like this stacks up to 5 times, then you know you can continuously stack this. Attacks after granting an increased attack level 1 buff. So you'll see that this is not stackable. 80% chance to grant ourselves a 20% increased mobility buff. Now, the whole idea behind Asta is you really want to have his speed very fast, so that you can kind of take advantage of getting like extra attacks and stuff with his special skill. For our special skill, we got Accelerated Assault. Now, this is the big boy strong one that we want to have go off as much as possible because it is amazing for those boss battles. Grants us an extra turn when we attack an enemy whose HP is at 80% or above. So because of that, this is why we want Asta to go first. So that way we know that we're always going to get that extra attack off. If we have all of our other heroes go first, then we have the potential to miss out on that if we're attacking somebody who is less than 80%. It really doesn't matter too much if you're doing it manually because you kind of are paying attention to it. But if you are doing some AFK grinding, then that's where something like this does come into play. As far as upgrading these, your special skill is the most important and the one that you should prioritize. This is going to give you the biggest skill attack increase. I got mine already up to 3, so I'm getting an extra 40%. Then I went ahead and started upgrading skill 2. This is only a 10% increase. And then your first skill is a very low. It's only 5% increase. For our combined attack, we've got barrier removal, removes a barrier, does a bunch of damage. Barrier removal is so important because right now, if we head over to our challenges, limited challenges exactly, for this one, our special episode, this special mode, this specific boss monster that we're going up against, if we click on objectives and then we take a look at her abilities, grants a buff as a barrier for 2 turns. So the fact that we're able to just go ahead and remove that barrier is going to take away that 120% magic attack bonus that she's gonna get. So if you have Asta, he's really amazing for taking down bosses, specifically this special episode boss that we have. As far as passives go, we have 2 passives. The first one unlocks once we reach that LR rarity. Grants us a percentage increase to our attack at the start of each turn, and it stacks 3 times, but more importantly, it's irremovable. It cannot be removed from an enemy. So this is important because this is a lot better, this unique passive, way better than this enhanced passive, which we have to enhance Asta to level 2, which is very costly, but this can be dispelled. So if you're going up against a heavy debuffer, gear is going to be a little bit tricky. Early on, you don't have access to like the greatest gear, but the gear sets. Let's head over to the gear dungeon. The dungeon power one, this is like the main one you're going to be farming early on. And the one that we're really looking out for is going to be stuff like this is a good one. The Secret of the Deep Sea to increase our speed. We're getting that 5% speed buff and just increasing our speed by an extra 5. So like I said before, making sure Asta goes first is very important. Can also go for is this one, which gives us extra attack. The only downside is we don't benefit from that magic attack because Asta, the Clover Academy version, is straight attack and doesn't do any type of magic attack. So we're really kind of missing out on the 7% there, but we get that 7% for the irregular attack. And then damage dealt is an extra 15. So this is a really solid pick. Now, there's one instance that I do want to try, and that is going to be the crit damage build. So if we go to the dungeon sensei, and this is going to be easier to do because this is a green type. So because Asta's red, we'll be able to kind of carry our way through this a lot easier. And that is going to be the one that has the crit damage. So there's this one that's pen plus defense pen, which this is another one that's also really good. But this one right here, we got crit damage plus 7. And then with 4 pieces on it, an extra 15%. So we can put out an insanely high amount of crit damage. And then if we head over to the blue dungeon, the technique one, there's actually a set in here that increases our crit rate. So you could do the combination of doing that right here, the Noble's Inheritance. You could do a combination of crit rate and crit damage for your gear sets. Go with a straight attack build, which is going to be easier to farm just one dungeon. The dungeon power, it's easier to farm, especially if you have all blue heroes. But that crit rate, crit damage one, I am interested to see. Maybe once we get later in the game, you know, maybe a month from now, and we're a lot stronger, we can kind of check that out and see if it's any better. As far as the talents go, for our attack area, I am going with this one where we're going to just take the increased attack for an extra 7% and then the extra damage dealt 5%. Nothing fancy, just straight extra damage. We've got the crit damage one, and then we also do have the extra 10% increased damage dealt a buff upon attacking a boss. Depend on if you're going up against bosses or not. If you are going up against bosses, then this is definitely going to be better. So then I would go with the ferocity mixed with something like maybe the crit damage. Again, if we're going up against a boss, we're going to take the guardian so that we get that extra 10% fortify buff. So if we're going up against a boss, I like this combination, increase max HP with the guardian. And then if we're just kind of grinding, we'll go with the endurance and then the max HP. I like this one a lot, increasing our accuracy and pen. So we're getting an extra 5% for that. This is going to increase our odds to avoid that block effect, which reduces a lot of our damage. And because we're going with such a heavy damage build, we really don't want that damage reduction to ever trigger so that our damage is blocked and really reduced. So this is going to help us out for that. And then we also have the Mage's Blessing, which 20% chance to grant a reduced skill 2 cooldown by 1 turn buff at the start of a turn. Our skill 2 ability is pretty strong, so we want to have that go off a lot more than just constantly doing our first attack. That is it. I hope you guys and girls enjoyed the video. Stay happy, stay safe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.